lot of the changes in the game make sense to me, but others perhaps aren't as well considered. Tying the game to the World Series, saying this time it counts, unquestionably has helped the television ratings. And the definition of helping television ratings now isn't necessarily increasing them, it's just holding them steady or stopping the erosion, because that's the nature of this 500 channel universe, and ESPN and Sports Center and the TiVo and the whole thing.
Right.
So I understand the reason they did it, and if I were in their shoes, maybe I'd do the same thing. But you have to take into account the contradictions. This is the least typical baseball game of the whole year outside of spring training. Every team has to be represented. The managers make an effort, unlike in the past where Willie Mays or Hank Aaron might play the whole game. The managers make an effort, understandably, to get every player in. But at the same time, you're trying to win the game. You don't bunt when you normally bunt. You don't disappoint the fans by giving Albert Pujols an intentional walk with first base open the way you might in a normal game. And yet, theoretically, the outcome affects in some way the outcome, or could affect the outcome, of the single most important game of baseball season, Game 7 of the World Series. Now, the reason not to get totally upset about it is what it replaced was also random. It was an alternating thing. So if the American League champion in a given year was a weak division winner or the wild card team, and the National League champion won 115 games, but it was the American League's turn to have Game 7, they were going to have it. So is the thing kind of contradictory? It is. Is it a complete outrage? It isn't, because what it replaced is also random, and because we understand that there's an understandable business reason why they did what they did.
Well, by the same token, then why not give the home field advantage to the team with the best record and make this, again, different stakes involved in this game?
You could do that, although if you gave it to the team with the best record, then a legitimate argument would be, what if the World Series participant from the National League has a record one game better than the American League participant, and yet they played in perhaps not as strong a league, perhaps they came out of the weakest division in the league with an unbalanced schedule, maybe that year their interleague draw was an easy one, and the American League team is the Yankees or the Red Sox playing in that division, butting heads, and maybe they had a tough interleague draw, and you could make a case that the record doesn't reflect which is the better team.
Right.
That's part of the beauty of baseball. Almost no matter what you do, there's always a contrary argument.
Right. What if the prevailing view of the public was that they did not like this linkage between these two things? Would that sway, in your opinion, would that sway the decision makers?
If the provable overwhelming view of the public was they didn't like the linkage, they'd have to take that into account. If there was some poll that said 52-48 and it wasn't necessarily definitive, I don't think they'd make a change.
Overwhelming being 3/4 or more?
I don't know. Better than 60% at least. But then they have to look at, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they have to look at what the numbers have been since 2002 in light of the erosion with other big sports events, and try and evaluate, and it would be guesswork, educated guess at best, evaluate how much tying this to the World Series home field advantage, how much that has to do with people's continued interest in it.